Your Honor, we are live.
Snow, the public stream is now resuming. The commission was in confidential session. We'll continue the cross-examination by Mr. O'Loughlin.
Thank you. I'll wait for Mr. Adigwe to sit back down.
Yes, I'm back.
Sorry, lost my train of thought there going back. Give me 1 second. The question I just asked you is that your prior testimony, I believe you said sometime in March is when Sunc ceased performing outbound calls. Is that correct?
That is correct. Sunc ceased allowing cable affiliate opt-in calls. Yes.
So, and that started in March, that Sunc was no longer doing anything other than inbound calls. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
I want to direct you to your own answer filed in this matter to the OPC complaint. I believe it's on page 5. You stated via your attorney that Sunc had actually ceased outbound calls on January 31st, but your testimony today is now that it was actually sometime in March. Is that correct?
It was if I could recall properly, I believe it was in March. We were informed by staff, and that's when we implemented that rule internally.
So that you're saying that when you say you were informed by staff, do you mean by the Consumer Affairs Division of the PSC?
Yeah, PSC, yes. That's what I mean.
Okay. But March wasn't the first date that you had gotten correspondence from the Consumer Affairs Division your method of solicitation was insufficient, was it?
That's when my compliance team, because there is multiple departments within my organization. That's when my compliance team brought it to my attention, and immediately I passed a judgment not to allow such type of enrollment, take place.
Will you accept, subject to check, that the first time that the Consumer Affairs Division informed you that these worm transfers did not qualify for an MTSA exemption, so the first time you were told that this method of transacting wasn't sufficient, will you accept that the first time that you were told that was in late January of 2020?
And just a point of clarification, when you say you, if you can clarify, do you mean Sunc Energy you, or do you mean Jacob Adigwe you?
I mean Sunc Energy. The first time Sunc Energy was informed.
Sunc Energy been informed from what I confirmed from Mr. McGee, my attorney. All right, according to the documents that we provided him, and he pointed it out. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
But my attorney also brought it to my attention that even though after that, okay, if they stated that in February, early March, all right, the PSC staff, we are still approving the cable affiliate referrals. We won a lot of card complaint judgments in our favor.
Okay, right? I understand that. I understand that. That's a fair point. So you got a lot of conflicting information from the Consumer Affairs Division during the months between. It seemed to me, and I'll ask you to accept subject to check. Somewhere between January and March, you were getting a lot of conflicting information. Is that right?
Yes, but to be frankly speaking, this was, internally brought to my attention in March.
So at no point did anybody reach out to the Public Service Commission for any sort of clarification on whether this is proper? Did anybody write a letter to check?
That's the job of my compliance team, but I can't recall if they did.
Okay.
They might have done that, but I can't recall if they did.
Do you recall when Sunc applied for its license to supply energy, to supply electricity and gas? Do you recall doing that process?
Correct, in January of 2019, but we didn't start operation in the States till summer of 2019.
Okay, so that's fair. So you recall in that document, in that application, it consisted of a number of pages. You had to sign a few of those pages, correct?
Correct.
You
Yes.
yourself signed them, correct?
Yes, right. It has to go.
And you read every page that that was in that packet yourself, correct?
Frankly speaking, no, it's a lot of documents, all right, but, you know, I have a lot of stuff, and that's their job, all right,
Okay.
before it gets to me.
Do you recall signing that Sunc would comply with all Maryland laws and regulations as a condition of their receiving a license?
Yes,
Okay.
and we want to comply. At no circumstances were we trying not to obey the laws.
Right, because earlier you had stated, I think, something to the effect of that you wanted to comply with the laws, and I believe you said if you were informed, you would have made the changes. Is that right?
If we were informed about the rates not being the initial variable rate, the first month at least variable rate not being stated on our TPV, we will have implemented it right away. If we were informed in 2019, we will have implemented it. All right.
Okay.
It's the state of Ohio that informed us. All right. And we did a general change throughout all the states we're currently selling it.
But you just stated that you signed a document and you recalled saying that you would comply with all Maryland laws and regulations.
Yes.
And so complying with all Maryland laws and regulations would require you to affirmatively know what you're supposed to be doing. Isn't that correct?
I do know what, you know, that's the business I'm in. All right. So I do know what I'm doing. You know,
I'm sorry, that was an unfair question. You're required to do what is required to be compliant with the law. And one such requirement, as you later discovered, was making sure that your variable price was in your TPVs. Wouldn't you agree that that was a requirement that you were required to do on that document that you signed?
On the document that I signed, yes, but I mean, how can I rephrase this? Internally, my compliance team thought it's not a requirement. In multiple states, it's not a requirement. All right, so
perhaps it was on one of the pages you didn't read and your staff did.
Correct. I agree with you.
I want to direct you to your own Exhibit 2. That's your Sunc call script. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about that call script. Do you have that in front of you?
All right, yeah.
Bear with us 1 second.
Oh, sorry.
We'll pull it up. I'm sorry, Exhibit 2?
Yes, the Sunc call script.
Okay, we have it.
I want you to look at this document and see if you can locate what the date of this script is. When was this script in effect? Is there a date anywhere on this document?
No, it's not dated.
Okay. How about the price of the product itself? Is there a price on this call script anywhere?
There is no price, but we did inform the customer that we placed on a 100% green month-to-month variable rate.
Okay, that's my next point. So where on this document, if you can point to it, do you have the percentage of renewable in the RPS shown on this document, given that you're 100% green, as you say?
Correct.
So where on here is the percentage of renewables as required under the statute for your RPS requirement?
On the sales script?
Yes.
No, It's not here, but it's on our website. I don't get that. What are you trying to
Court's
attest
indulgence
to
for
here?
one more moment, Your Honor. Okay. Final couple of questions. The contract summaries that you provided to the customers that you enrolled, did those contract summaries get sent to the customers before or after they were enrolled?
After the contract summary, that's after the enrollment, yes.
Okay, thank you.
When we were doing opt-in, all right, the cable installer drops our contract summary with the customer as well.
And following up on that, when you heard from the Consumer Affairs Division, you stopped in March, you said, on your outbound calls because you realized that you wanted to be compliant and the way you were doing business wasn't the right way, so you wanted to make sure you're doing it the right way. What, if anything, did you do to contact customers that you had enrolled incorrectly? Did you reach out to any of them?
No, we did not reach out to any of them because, as I stated initially, the staff decided with us, that if they had informed us, even in, let's say, when we started, which was in summer, late summer of 2019, all right, we will have implemented it, all right? We will have implemented the rates on the TPV, all right? So, till staff brought it to our,
And then following that,
actually, till date, staff has never brought it to our attention that, rate is not being mentioned on TPV. We found that internally and we implemented it nationwide. You understand? So that's.
I understand that. So following you like we said, I'm sorry, just referring back, you ceased your outbound calls in March, but that third call that we listened to, just referring to the initials of KT, that call occurred, and you recall reading the date was sometime in April. So that would be after your March cessation of outbound calls, correct?
Correct, yes.
But that was an outbound call, was it not?
So that was not an outbound call. That was an inbound call.
That was an inbound call, even though it. Fair enough. I'm not going to get into the substance of the call itself. It's your assertion that that was an inbound call and not an outbound call. What about the call to Mr. Fields in May? Was that an outbound call?
We hired Blend BPO to only, sell inbound based product to consumers, specifically, due to COVID. We had to shut down all our door-to-door operation. All right, and we know that attrition in this business is very, it's within few months. If let's say you have 1,000 customers, you can easily go down to 300 or 400. All right, so we hired a lot of centers. All right, COVID hit around ending of March. All right, so we hired a lot of centers that can generate inbound call. All right, so on May 24th, 25th, when I had a conference call with both you and Mr. Fields, and you guys brought to my attention what had transpired. That day, all right, we terminated the center, and actually we seized any sales operation in that state to so as to make sure, all right, nothing fishy is going on anywhere or anything. You understand? So
understood.
We want to be compliant.
One final question, because I understand exactly what you're saying. I just want to make sure we get a yes or no on that. That call to Mr. Fields, that was an outbound call, correct? Yes or no?
From what I've heard from Mr. After listening to the code provided to me by the center, yes.
Okay.
I agree
I have
with
nothing
that.
further, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Ms. McErlane, do you have cross for the witness?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Adigwe. I am Catherine McErlane, Associate Counsel on behalf of staff.
Gotcha.
Mr. Adigwe, it's your responsibility to know what Maryland law is, correct?
That is, yes. As the president of Sunc Energy, yes.
As president of Energy, yes.
Your
As
attorney,
earlier, you
Earlier,
have
you have
large
a large,
what you're
going to need to do is
mute your microphone.
every time.
Okay. For the witness, you'll have to mute as well. So I only need one open microphone at any time because of the echo coming from Ms. McErlane's system. Okay, so Ms. McErlane, you could unmute, ask your question, and then immediately remute.
your attorney pointed out several places where CAD did not tell you the method of contracting was invalid. But there are also several complaints where CAD did tell you Sunc's method of contracting was invalid. And in fact, you already admitted that in your testimony, correct?
Yes. And the method was officially brought to my attention in March of 2020.
CAD never received sales calls, so they wouldn't have known if there were misrepresentations made in the sales calls, correct?
No, incorrect. We just listened to, multiple sales call on TPV. Actually, all CAD complaint which my compliance team received, all right, if it resulted in a sale, the sales call and TPV were all provided, and the letter, the welcome letter and everything, and the contract summary with the customer received was provided to PSC staff.
Would you please refer to staff exhibit number 1, suncenergy.com's website? And let me know when you have that up, please.
Ms. McErlane is referencing their page, correct?
Yes.
I'm there.
On the website, it states no contract. Are you not providing a contract?
No contract means, they can cancel at any time. They can cancel out of the program at any time. They're not obligated to keep the product. There is no cancellation fee. That's what I meant.
Doesn't Maryland law require a contract?
a customer did receive the contract summary and the contract summary, brochure, terms and condition, and everything. If that deemed as a contract, that should be the contract that tells them, everything surrounding the product. All right, so as I stated, as you guys already know, there is no early termination fee. They can opt out at any time. They're not obligated to keep the product. That's what we meant by no contract. But they did receive, the full disclosure statement about the product.
Direct earlier, you stated it was the job of the cable affiliate to send customer information who show verbal interest in hearing about Sunc's green product, correct?
Yes.
Would you please refer to Sunc Exhibit 2, the Maryland inbound sales call script? For the inbound sales call, confirm customer interest in speaking about election, correct?
Witness is on mute. Mute.
Please repeat your question. I didn't get it properly.
On the inbound sales call script, a customer verbally confirms their interest in speaking about their electric supply option, correct?
Yes.
Further down on the inbound calls sales script, it states, nothing will change with your reliable service from BG&E on your bill. The only difference is that Sunc Energy will show on the generation portion of your BGE bill as your new supplier by the price to compare. Isn't it true when you sign up with Sunc, nothing will change with your reliable services from BG&E or the bill?
That is true. Nothing is changing with your reliable service. That means they won't have any kind of power interruption. They can still call BG or reach out to us at any time during business hours, by the way. That's what we mean by nothing will change with your reliable service from BG or the bill that you're currently getting from BGE. Because we're basically making that statement so as to reassure the customer they will not get two different bills.
But in fact, there are changes, aren't there?
Repeat your question. I didn't get that. We didn't hear it.
But in fact, there are changes, aren't there?
What do you deem changes on the bill or on the as reliable service from the utility? I would like to know.
Changes there are changes. The language says nothing will change with your reliable service from BG&E or your bill. But there are changes, aren't there?
They will never get a bill from Sunc Energy, so their billing method will not change. Sunc can never turn off a customer's electric service or turn off a customer's gas service or shut them off. Nothing can, BG has the sole power to do that. Sunc don't have the power to do that. If they even refuse to pay Sunc Energy for the supply service, which is for the commodity service, Sunc do not have any power to turn off their service. That's what we meant.
In many cases, these changes include customers are going to be paying double the rate, and that is not disclosed on the inbound sales call script, is it?
On the inbound sales crops, no, because we're offering a 100% grain month-to-month variable rate. All right, we would have included it in our TPV if staff brought it to our attention. But the rate is visible on our website at suncienergy.com. Scroll down, you'll see where it says rate. On the contract summary, terms and conditions, the rate is clearly stated there, all right? And let's make this clear. They can cancel out at any time. They're not obligated to keep the product.
That is all staff's questions for Mr. Edigwe.
Thanks, Ms. McErlane. Redirect, Mr. McGee.
A few questions, Your Honor. Thank you. I wanted to circle back to OPC's question near the end about outbound calls, and you referenced it a little bit with staff too. So I had that your testimony when you talked about in March when you found out your cable affiliate operation did not make you exempt from having the wet signature requirement. That your testimony was you stopped doing cable referrals, not that you stopped having outbound calls. So which was right? Or was it both? Do you want me to rephrase the question?
I believe you're speaking to the OPC.
Can you hear me?
Mr. Patrick?
No, I'm asking you. This is a question for you, yes.
Oh, okay. Repeat your question again, please.
Okay, sorry about that. My client didn't know I was asking him the question, so I'm going to start over. So, Mr. Edigwe, I'm going to reference a conversation you had on direct testimony and also with Mr. O'Loughlin about when you stopped outbound calls versus when you stopped receiving cable referrals. So which one did you stop in March?
When we stopped receiving cable referrals with automatic, yeah, both actually.
Okay, so it was both?
Yes.
Okay, and did there come a time when you started the outbound calls again?
No.
So
we only just allow just inbound.
So you discussed the call to Mr. Fields and you discussed the hiring of a Blend BPU and some others around that time. So were they making outbound calls?
They were not allowed to.
Okay.
All right. So as you can see, the document that we provided to Blend BPO. All right. We clearly stated only inbound calls. We provided them an inbound script to be read to customers who calls them. But as you guys do understand, some centers do go rogue. And as I indicated in multiple statements earlier, when Mr. Fields and Mr. Patrick brought it to our attention in May 25th of 2020, we seized further, sales in the state.
Okay, thank you. And I want to go back to the beginning about the number of customers, and the chairman pointed out the number in the filing that was made of about 5,728 people. You had a discussion with OPC about roughly 5,000, and then you made a distinction between the number of enrollments versus the number of customers that will actually your customers. So I'm trying to understand, is this 5,728 number all of the customers that ever did business with Sunc, or is there some other number?
That's the number of enrollments in the state, but it didn't actually 5,000 plus customer didn't become a customer of Sunc Energy.
Okay, so what number approximately became a customer of Sunc Energy, to the best of your ability?
About 4,000.
Okay, thank you.
And right now, if you want me to go a little bit further?
That's okay, thank you.
Gotcha.
I have no further questions.
Thank you. I have some questions for the witness. I imagine my colleagues do as well. We'll plan to take a break at approximately 4 o'clock and see where we are. Good afternoon. Mr. Adabi, can you provide me with a little more background regarding your experience in this industry?
I've actually, in this industry, I've actually been in the industry since 2010. All right. I'm actually a marketing guy. You know, I have a marketing organization which was formed in 2010. You know, we've sold for multiple ESCOs in different states throughout the United States, and we decided to launch our ESCO rather than keep selling for other ESCO. All right, we decided to launch our ESCO in roughly, we made that decision in 2017, and we didn't become operational till 2019. For example, in the state of Maryland, we didn't start offering service to the consumer till roughly about summer of last year.
Thank you. I'm looking at your application that you filed with the PSC in April of 2019 for natural gas services. You have an impressive career in management. It appears that you led a staff of 2,000 employees, managing a company with $400 million revenue. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And you had another company with 250 million in revenue, and you led 1,300 employees?
That's correct.
Are you free to tell us the name of those two companies?
Yes, I'm willing. Yes, you know the marketing company, is that what you're referring to?
The company where you manage 2,000 people, what's the name of that company?
That's Easy Sales. Easy Sales and Marketing Inc. All right.
And where is Easy Sales based out of?
We're located in Pennsylvania. Lansdowne, Pennsylvania.
And the other company?
We also in the hospitality business.
And what's the name of that? What's the name of that business?
Shoreham Hotel Group.
With respect to Sunc, do you own 100% of the company?
Yes, I do.
Looking at your natural gas license application, who is Romaine Reed?
That's my assistant. Not is the vice president. Is the vice president? Yes.
Does he serve as your assistant?
Yes, he is. He is, but he has no shares. I'm 100% owner.
So he is an employee?
Correct. Yes.
How many employees does Sunc have?
Direct staff. You want me to separate direct from marketing staff?
Let's start with direct staff.
Direct staff. At least 15 employees.
And where do these
It's pretty
employees
small.
work?
We are growing here.
Where do the 15 employees work?
They currently work in Cherry Hill, New Jersey.
You stated earlier you have a marketing department?
Yeah, we have yes, we do have a marketing. As I stated, I've been marketing for different ESCOs under the name Easy Sales and Marketing Inc. or out of Lansdowne, Pennsylvania. I live in Pennsylvania, but our corporate office for Sunc is in Cherry Hill, New Jersey.
How many people are in the marketing department?
The marketing department is pretty wide. That's where we have about 2,000 plus employees.
Are these 2,000 employees direct employees of Sunc?
No.
Okay. All right, Mr. Witness, I'm asking you about direct employees right now. Do you have any
direct employee for? I can answer that quickly. Direct employee for Sunc is currently 15 agents. 15.
You referenced your compliance team in your testimony a few minutes ago. Do you have a chief compliance officer?
Yes.
What is the name of that officer?
Her name is Dorothy Stone.
And how many employees does Ms. Stone have in the compliance office?
They're currently 5.
Do you have a general counsel or legal department?
Not as staff. That's not as one of our staff. That's we have a legal team that do represent us.
Like Mr. McGee?
Yes.
But to be clear, Sunc does not have any legal officers.
Internally, yes.
When you first received your notice from CAD in 2020 of this year regarding
2020? Okay,
yes,
this year.
In January.
Okay.
And you received a decision from CAD. Did you seek legal counsel?
No.
Why not?
Because it's the job of my compliance team to inform me if we, if they deem that, wow, we are non-compliant in a specific state. All right. They didn't bring that to my attention. It was only one issue that we lost in January of 2020. All right. But after January, we won a lot of cases at the PSC. All right. In February, even early March, it's still basically ending of March. That's when it was brought to my attention that, wow, they are clearly saying that, hey, the cable affiliate does not show a pre-existing relationship. Then I passed the judgment to, to internally seize further cable affiliate obtain sales.
With regard to the cable affiliate, how many cable affiliates do you have?
I would say roughly about 300.
Your testimony is
Are
that
you referring to agents?
No, cable companies.
Oh, cable companies. Oh, we actually, the cable team, they represent most of the, cable provider throughout the United States. Time Warner, AT&T, Comcast, we do it all.
Earlier in your testimony, you referred to these as cable affiliates. Is it your testimony that Sunc is affiliated with Comcast, Time Warner, and others?
I cannot claim that. No, we are. No. Sunc should two different entities.
Okay. Sir, throughout your testimony, you referred to a cable affiliate. Who is the cable affiliate?
That's the cable sales the cable sales team. All right. During when they do their follow-up call to confirm the installation date, that's when they do ask the customer, hey, will you be interested in hearing from an energy specialist of how to shop around for a rate on your electric and gas bill? That's pretty much it.
I understand that, but who is that cable affiliate making the phone call?
Oh, yes, I understand your question now. There is a center that sends us that strictly sell, cable products, to to consumers. All right, and they send us those leads.
Do you have a customer affairs office at Sunc?
Repeat that question, sir.
Do you have a customer affairs office at Sunc?
Customer affairs, yes, we do.
Okay. Who is LaShawna Davis?
Laquana Davids?
Yes. Who is that?
That should be one of the staff.
What office does she work for?
That's Sunc. So you pronounce LaShawna Davis. I got you now. Yeah, that's one of the customer service.
What is her title?
She's the manager of the customer service team.
Clarify your previous testimony. Currently, are all door-to-door solicitations suspended in addition to all telephone solicitations?
Anyway, in May of 2020, after speaking to Mr. Fields and Mr. Patrick, that was COVID, that was COVID period. So you can't even do door-to-door anyway. COVID was, due to COVID, we ceased door-to-door operation ending of March.
So currently, as of today, you are not soliciting any customers in the state of Maryland. Is that your position?
That's true.
Since you've been operating with a license in the state of Maryland, how many customers filed a dispute with Sunc's customer services office or customer relations office?
I would, I don't know that number by heart. I don't know that number by heart.
Okay.
All right. But I would just say not much.
Sir, if I brought your attention to OPC Exhibit 1, Data Response 1-17, you stated that there were no complaints that were ever brought to your office from a customer in Maryland. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that sounds right, yes.
So would it be fair to say that the phone never rings at Sunc in the customer affairs office?
Either customers are calling to cancel if they want to cancel because they can cancel out at any time, but that's not necessarily, they want to file a complaint.
Let me ask you about cancellation for a moment. A few minutes ago, in response to questioning from Mr. O'Laughlin, you stated that at some months you go from a few thousand customers down to a few hundred. Why does that occur?
Attrition in the business is it's a very, very competitive industry. All right. A customer that you sign up today, obviously a week later, another competitor is right behind you signing up that same customer. All right, switching them from their current provider to another. So it's a very competitive industry. As you can, as you can clearly see, as of August, we had roughly 1,500 electric meters still left and 770 gas meter left.
Is it fair to say that you have trouble holding on to customers long term?
Remember, our products, there is no early termination fee, so they're not obligated to keep us. All right, so they can sign with us today, shop around. They like another person's product, they will go with them. All right, so it's they're not obligated. So I wouldn't say that. I believe it's because of basically the type of product that we're offering to consumers. That's it's their right.
Sir, so this is another question for you. Is it your testimony that you did not begin telephone solicitations until the start of COVID?
No, Rephrase that question again.
Did you conduct any outbound telephone solicitations prior to the COVID virus? Prior to March?
No, we did. We did. Yes.
When did telephone solicitations begin?
So, summer of 2019.
Would you agree that the 32 complaints that we were looking at on that CAD log today, of those 32 complaints, they all appear to be related to telephone solicitations?
Yes, I agree with that.
Do you have a full accounting of which of your customers have a valid contract and which of your customers do not have a valid contract, now that you are aware of the positions made clear by staff and People's Counsel?
We did that. I believe OPC asked that, and we did answer that question. We gave them the actual number when we did our internal investigation. You have that number, Mr. McGee?
I don't have that number, but if that is your testimony, that information has been provided. As a follow-up to that, as of today, do you know how many Sunc customers a wet signature associated with their account?
If it's telephonic, there's if it's telephonic through the opt-in method, then there is none.
And it's your testimony that that's approximately 25% of your total customers?
Yes.
Well, what is the basis for your prior testimony where you stated that the company had a misunderstanding of the state's statute and regulations on this topic?
We do believe that, the cable affiliate that sent us the referral showed a pre-existing relationship, so a wet signature was not required. As I stated, in March, when they brought it to our attention, we ceased doing that, and we only allowed just the inbound call. And according to COMA rules, that for what we understood was, if it's inbound, somebody initiated a call to you seeking for your services, you don't still need a wet signature. All right, and to hit the point that to get my point straight here, as I've told Mr. McGee, henceforth, we don't want to be, we'll cease any kind of telephonic-based enrollment in the state, and only just allow our door-to-door, which has zero complaint at the commission level, all right, to proceed. So we don't want to go through this ever again.
Thank you, sir, for your testimony. I'm going to yield to my colleagues now if they have questions for you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Linton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of questions for Mr. Adigwe. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Can you tell me who the employee that contacted Mr. Fields, did he work directly for Sunc, or did he work for the agent that you hired to conduct the calls on your behalf?
I'm so sorry, Mr. Linton. Can you please repeat that? Repeat the question. I'm so sorry.
Yes. Mr. Fields said that when he spoke to a representative for his enrollment, according to his affidavit, that was somebody named Richard White. Is that a person that works for you directly for Sunc, or is that someone that works for Blend BPO? That's
someone that works for Blend BPO, one of the contractors we hired.
Okay. how did you verify? So you have as part of the record the training materials that you were using. How did you verify that Blend BPO was following your training materials?
They were given the training material. They were trained by my team. All right, and the day that Mr. Feud brought to our attention what had transpired, all right, we requested for Mr. Field's call from the center, from Blend, and when we listened to it, we could see that, wow, this, they've totally disregarded the training which we gave them. All right, we fired them immediately, and that's what brought us here today.
Okay, so are you using other agents to make outbound calls or to market on your behalf in addition to Blend BPO?
We have other centers, but right now, no, we're not doing any business in the state. We have other centers that have contracts with us. It will not be fair for what one center, rogue center did for us to just terminate the other contract for all of the centers, because that's how they pay their bill, that's how they make their living. All right, so, but anyway, passing an internal judgment not to make any, sales in the state till this issue is permanently resolved. All right, many of them did lose their job and lose their contract, yes.
Okay, so you testified earlier that you also heard about some problems with the information provided by your agents from the commission in Ohio.
Yes.
Have you had any other similar situations in other states?
No.
So
no,
there are,
because I can elaborate a little bit towards that. In other states, it's not required if you're offering a month-to-month variable rate because of the rate changes every month anyway. All right, it's not required for you to actually, state any rate. Just inform the customer they will be placed on a month-to-month variable rate. The letter they will receive will show that actual, when their service will begin, what their first month rate will be. All right, and as I stated numerous times, if the PSC staff had brought that to our attention, all right, we will have implemented the necessary change so as to be compliant in that aspect. Till date, they never did. It's just about, I would say a week ago when we heard from the staff council, bringing up the point that, hey, no rate was mentioned on your no rate was mentioned on your TPV. That was a big shock.
okay. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Adigwe, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Linton.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Digway, good afternoon. I wanted to ask you about part of your testimony where you said where the complainants were giving information in the complaint, their description of the complaint. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
And these complainants were, I think in your words, just making this up.
Mm-hmm.
But several of them, I believe, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, but several of them came up with the same exact number, 5 cents per kilowatt hour. How do you think that happened? These were in geographically diverse locations around the state of Maryland. They weren't all in the same city. They weren't all in the same block. These people probably don't even know the existence of each other, yet they all came up with the same number. How do you think that happened?
I don't know. That I don't know. I would have wished staff provided us an audio tape containing what they heard from the customer. All right, so we just have the PDF. I wish staff had provided us another tape, but I don't know how that happened.
Well, if staff were to provide the audio tape, that would have probably come. Are you talking about the file tapes that the Office of People's Counsel was going over? Because that would have come from you.
Nah. The audio tape of the complaint that the PSC staff received from the consumer.
Right, but I'm talking about the consistent 5 cents per kilowatt hour number. Don't you think that had to be provided to these geographically diverse people who didn't even know each other? It would, the odds of them all coming up with the same number independently to try to scam the system the complaint system would be astronomical, I would think. How do you explain that? Because you assert they're just lying.
To be frank with you, I only, I've not gone over to even see how many customers truly specified that they were promised to staff, that they were promised 5 cent savings to really, is it 2, is it 1, is it 3? I don't really know, but coincidence there can be a coincidence. I just don't know. I don't.
Okay, thank you. Let me ask you another question, if I might. So you established, it's been established today that some of the complaints were not substantiated, and some were, right? Would you agree with that?
With what Mr. Billfield brought to my attention, definitely, yeah.
Okay, so there were others that CAD had received that were substantiated. They were found to have merit, correct? Against Sunc.
Oh, that we lost some CAD cases? Yeah, we did lose some CAD cases, yes.
Sure. Did Sunc ever appeal one of those cases per your rights to appeal an adverse decision from CAD?
We did not appeal any case. If staff said, hey, give the customer a 100% refund, and that was their judgment, we implemented that right away.
So why didn't you ever appeal? If you thought you were doing business right, you thought you were doing things right, because that's your testimony, why did you never appeal one of those cases? CAD gets appeals of their decisions all the time.
To be frank with you, I never thought that was even possible. So actually appeals, a judgment.
In the correspondence, in the correspondence that CAD sends you, don't they inform you have a right to an appeal?
In the correspondence, I actually, read some. I actually thought that they were referring to the customer. All right, that hey, Mr. John Doe, hey, if you don't like the decision which we've made today, you can appeal. I thought they were referring to the customer to appeal their decision.
Why would they do that if they were ruling in favor of the customer? That doesn't make any sense to me that you would think that.
There's been multiple cases whereby they've ruled in favor of us, and they told the customer, they said they can appeal, or the customer can appeal. But when it comes to when we are on the losing end, you understand, anytime we lose any case at the PSC staff level, if the customer was billed, we implemented a 100% refund back to the customer.
I appreciate that. Thank you for your answers to my questions. The chairman asked a lot of my questions, so I have no more, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. O'Donnelly.
Any additional questions from commissioners? Commissioner Herman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm using my headset. Can you hear me today? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you well, madam.
Good. Thank you.
Hi, Ms. Mindy.
Good afternoon, Mr. Adigwe.
Good afternoon.
The question I have is about this pre-existing relationship concept, and I'm trying to understand what you believe the pre-existing relationship was with the customer before they got transferred or got a call from your company. With whom was the pre-existing relationship?
The existing relationship was definitely with the cable affiliate, but the cable affiliate, when you listen to the audio, told the customer, "Will you be interested in hearing from an energy specialist?" So you can possibly go ahead.
So the cable affiliate, and I think you went through this a little bit with the chairman, but I'm still a little confused. So the cable affiliate, you're not affiliated with Comcast, right?
Yes, we're not affiliated with Comcast. That's true.
Okay. And the calls that we heard were to, in order to make sure somebody was going to be home when a cable installer came to put their cable in, to work on
Correct.
the cable, right?
Yes.
Are you affiliated with the company that does the work installing the cable?
They actually one of our call centers. Yes, they're one of the centers that have contract with us.
Are you affiliated with the with the company where the person comes in and works on the cable?
Yes.
You are. You have an affiliate who installs cable.
Correct.
You do. What's the name of that affiliate?
Easy Sales has a lot of cable sales agents.
Yeah,
All
but
right.
the cable sales agents, I thought they were marketers. I thought they were just
Yeah,
marketers.
they were marketers. Sales agent, I was trying to say marketers. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But the marketers don't come to your house and install the cable, do they?
No, there is gonna be, it's the marketer don't come. There's a department that strictly does the installation. That have contracts with let's say Comcast, AT&T, DirecTV to actually go out and do the installation, equipment installation, and so on. Yes.
Right. So you're saying that the pre-existing relationship was with the marketing company that called them on behalf of Comcast.
Correct. Yes.
And so what kind of relationship did any of these customers have with the marketing company that had a contractual relationship with Comcast potentially? But what kind of pre-existing contractual relationship did those people have with the marketing company?
Based on the fact that they are the customer of that marketing company, they ask the customer, will they be interested in hearing from an energy specialist?
Yeah, I understand that.
That's
but
where
customer, the person who is being called to confirm their cable appointment, they do not have a pre-existing relationship with Easy Sales and Marketing. They have a pre-existing relationship with Comcast. Isn't that right?
Yes, they have an existing relationship with Comcast.
Right.
And they can create, by the customer verbally agreeing to hear from an energy specialist. That's when they go ahead and create a pre-existing relationship with the energy company, with the ESCO.
Well, how can it be pre-existing if they're just creating it right then and there?
Because of they're a customer of that marketing firm.
No, they're not a customer of the marketing firm, are they? I mean, have they signed a contract with them? How is it the marketing firm is their customer is Comcast, right? That's who
Correct.
hires the marketing firm, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right. Okay. All right. I think I've made my point. So you said in your testimony much earlier on that you have a process for that you follow the law, right? That you want to follow the law. What is your process to follow the law in each of the 6 states in which you operate?
All right. I have reputable staff member. I also, have an outside counsel that, goes through whatever compliance documents so as to make sure that we are complying by the rule in that particular state that reads, the documents in and out and everything. All right. That's pretty much it.
Do you have outside counsel? Do you run everything by your outside counsel in every state?
Yes, we do. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Mindy.
Any additional questions from commissioners? PSC. Commissioner Richard.
Good afternoon, Mr. Digway. I just wanted just a couple of questions about how you describe your products or how you would represent your product. In the script, you mentioned that it's 100% green, okay, and that you offer cash rebates and there are rewards that will benefit the customer. Can you just tell me a little more about that, what the product is, and how you value that product?
Gotcha. All right. 100% green, environmental friendly, month-to-month variable rates. We do by tier 1 REX, all right, which is filed with the PSC, all right, so as to make sure we are compliant with that product.
And I'm sorry, that is 100% product. Is that correct? Yes, as you stated. Okay.
Yes, we do by tier 1 REX, so as to make sure our products are 100. And this information is also on our website. The RSP information is also on our website as well. And when it comes to the rebates, on the welcome letter which they get, even Mr. Feud kind of testified to that, and the documents which PSC did receive, it shows that a brochure. They can go to suncienergyrewards.com. All right.
And I'm there right now. Actually, I'm looking at that website.
That's every month they get $50 in $50 in electric, $50 in gas added to their account, and they can redeem it anytime they want. Let's say a customer has been with us for 12 months. For electricity, 12 times 50, that's $600. If they have gas as well, 12 times 50, that's 600. That's 1,200 in redeemable reward box that they can redeem from Sunc Energy Reward, which is a separate website from our suncienergy.com website.
Okay, and these aren't actual bucks. These are to buy, I guess, These are points to buy some of these rewards that are mentioned in the website, or they can
go to the website, get Amazon gift cards. They want an airline ticket. If you have $1,200, you can shop right there, get the free airline tickets to go to wherever you want to go. There's a lot of benefits there. They can go out for outdoor dining, anything they want. It's free. It's a free incentive we give to all Sunc Energy customers.
Okay, and so that's when you say cash rebates and rewards, that is what you're referring to, getting these $50 bucks.
Correct.
That are then redeemed through this website.
That $50 monthly rewards. Let's use that sentence. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you very much. That's all. Those are all my questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Richards.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to follow up to Commissioner Richard, Mr. Adigwe. Your description of your product as 100% green, but then you went on to describe that it was all RECs from tier one RECs per Maryland's RPS construct. Are you familiar with what black liquor is?
Black liquor?
Mm-hmm.
No.
So that's a tier 1 renewable energy source, I believe.
I'm not familiar with it.
But it's not really. Even though it's renewable, it's not really. Well, let me ask it this way: if something is renewable, is it necessarily 100% green?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I without debating, I thank you for your answer. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
No questions of the witness. Do any counsel have questions based on commissioner's questions?
I do, Your Honor. I just have one line, and it relates to the percentage of customers that Sunc has acquired through the telephone. So it was a discussion with you, Mr. Chairman, where he said 25% were through the phone. And he's talked about two different ways that he's obtained customers that way. One is through the cable affiliate, which we've talked about, and he understands that that was not appropriate. And the other is the outbound where, or I'm sorry, the inbound where the customer is calling based on a marketing brochure or something Sunc sent. So my question ultimately to Mr. Digwe is, do you have a breakdown out of that 25% amount that were telephone customers? Do you have an approximate breakdown as to what percentage were through the cable affiliate and what percentage were through the inbound response to marketing?
Percentage, I would roughly say inbound was roughly about 70% of that.
Okay, so 70% inbound, that means 30% would be through the cable affiliate?
Correct, yes.
Okay, that's the only question. Thank you.
Thank you. Do other counsel have questions based on commission questioning? Mr. McGee, do you have any additional witnesses?
No, I do not, Your Honor.
Before we move to closing statements, are there any other matters to bring to the chair's attention?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, well, we'll move to closing statements, beginning with Office of People's Counsel.
Court's indulgence, Your Honor. I've got a crying son here. Give me 10 seconds. I'll be right back.
Should I mute? Oh, yeah.
Sorry, Your Honor. The joys of parenting during a pandemic. So I think the first thing to note is we heard a lot of information today. I feel like almost more questions were raised than we got answers to. But one thing that seemed like a through line through all of this is that Mr. Adigwe's shop that he's running, he doesn't have even the most basic of information on some portions of his business. I apologize. Kim, if I can have just a 1 minute. So to my son's credit, he managed very well throughout the day, but you know, lack of a proper nap is difficult. So as I was saying, Mr. Adigwe has even admitted on the record multiple times that he didn't even read the application. So the problems with Sunc have started from the very beginning of their attempts to do business in the state of Maryland. We had a whole lot of varying math in terms of how many customers Sunc has had, whether they were actually enrolled, who was enrolled via which way. And at this point, I'm not sure how much to trust the figures that Mr. Adigwe put out at the very end there, given how I think a lot of his testimony was evasive and incomplete. But what we do know is that every single customer enrolled via telephonic solicitation did not sign a contract. There was no contract, and not only that, but the contract summary forms were provided after enrollment and not before. Now, the reason why that's important in terms of the contract summary is that that's what informs the customer. That's what lets the customer know all the ins and outs of what it is that they're agreeing to, what they're signing up for. So it's critical in a telephonic solicitation aspect that the customer be provided with that information prior to enrolling. So we have evidence that states basically there are about 1,000 customers enrolled this way. But first and foremost, any remedies in this case should confer to those damaged by Sunc's violative practices first. So the first step for this commission, in OPC's opinion, is that Sunc should be ordered to return all customers enrolled via telephonic solicitation back to utility SOS, and not only that, but also receive a full re-rate. That's every customer that Sunc has enrolled. So that's about 1,000 customers. Further, then using that same 1,000 number, OPC is of the opinion that these unauthorized enrollments are indeed slams. You have 1,000 slams, and under the statute, while a penalty of $10,000 per violation can, is the maximum, OPC believes that $1,000 per slam is a valid and proper number. Further, since Sunc has other violations like failing to provide the contract summaries and fully inform the customer, that should be yet another $1,000 violation per instance of those 1,000. These failures, in conjunction with, and I went through all of the CAD files, and this is the outstanding discovery response, but totaling all the customers. Some of the customers were enrolled for 0 days, some of them were enrolled for 180 days, but totaling it all up, we have 1,000. In my math, I got 1,406 violation days. Obviously, I don't have any record from Sunc to dispute that or agree with that. We asked, we didn't receive. But when you add those two sets of $1,000 per 1,000 customer violations with those ongoing daily violations, as well as the 9 violations in the Fields complaint and the 11 alleged misrepresentations in the record to which Sunc has produced no evidence to dispute, OPC believes an appropriate penalty in this case would be $2.5 million. Now, that amount is appropriate because Sunc slammed every customer that enrolled via telephonic solicitation. And as this commission held in the 2014 Sterion Energy matter, both slamming and providing customers with false or misleading information is as or more serious as any of the previous misrepresentations we have determined to be violations under PUA 7507. Now, with that penalty, however, we believe that penalty should be actually revisited at a later date and be subject to deduction and reduction, depending on Sunc's compliance with our first point of returning all telephonically solicited customers to SOS and providing re-rates. So OPC would consider a penalty far below that amount should Sunc comply with actually making whole the customers that it damaged. Further, OPC believes that the commission should suspend Sunc's supplier license until the re-rate in the SOS is complete and whatever civil penalty at that point imposed is paid. Reinstatement could be conditioned on Sunc being prohibited from engaging in telemarketing until such time as it can satisfy the commission of its ability to comply with all Maryland laws and commission regulations regarding all marketing activities, including door-to-door. Informing its customers of re-rates, OPC also believes the best way to proceed is for Sunc, OPC, and staff to meet and confer in developing a letter to be sent to all affected Sunc customers and to be presented for commission approval at a later date. And the reason why we believe that this is important is that if the commission were to revoke Sunc's license today, it would create great difficulty in maintaining commission oversight without the license still being in play. If Sunc is not compliant with these penalties and conditions, the commission could at a later date compel Sunc to show cause why their license should not be revoked. And if the commission determines it is necessary and proper, at that point, revoke the licenses. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. O'Loughlin. Counsel for the Public Commission.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. I don't want to repeat anything, and I don't want to prolong this long day. But what we have here are many, many admitted violations on the part of Sunc. And to their credit, many of the violations that they've admitted. And what we also have is very credible detailed complaint and testimony from Mr. Fields. And then we also have 30 or so CAD complaints, and some are eerily similar to one another, and others are eerily similar to each other, as Commissioner O'Donnell pointed out. Staff finds that this is compelling evidence of what we believe we were charged by the commissioner to do, and that is to offer the opinion that what we have here is a pattern and practice of violations of Maryland consumer law. So that's what we have. What we don't have is any compelling evidence that Sunc has offered a unique service or a unique product that significantly increases the Maryland consumers' access to energy choice. I was watching the admin this morning, and there was a problem with YouTube, so it was interrupted shortly after the chairman told us that there were 30-some different gas choices for our consumers here in Maryland. And I don't know whether the chairman addressed the electrical choices, because I was having problems. But certainly there are many electric choices as well. That being the case, it seems to staff that this particular supplier should not be afforded the privilege of doing business in our state, whereas there seems to be no benefit to the Maryland consumer by the continued license of Sunc. And so we have asked, as well as a monetary penalty, we have asked that the license be revoked. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Mr. McGee.
Thank you, Your Honor. As I stated in the opening, Sunc clearly has acknowledged the violations of commission regulations and law. And really, in my mind, the best way to handle it is to go right to the core of their issues, which is the several different categories of problems with the telephone solicitation and contracts. So I do think it's entirely appropriate for the commission to not allow Sunc to continue contracting customers that way, and they've agreed to do that and accept a penalty of that sort. As the record was clear, there are zero complaints relating to their door-to-door sales operation. So I don't think there's any evidence, or let alone compelling, obviously, to restrict their operations for that means of customer acquisition. As it relates to the breakdown of the telephone customers, at the end, my client gave a breakdown of a percent. So if 25% roughly, so if we're at like roughly 1,000 or so were obtained via telephone, 30% were obtained, so about 300, by the cable affiliate. Sunc was confused as to what they should do or what should not occur. I think Commissioner Herman's exchange was exactly on point as to, that's how I understand how she portrayed it as their, what the true relationship is. And I do not believe that it was an affiliate, a prior existing business relationship of Sunc's, which is what would trigger the exemption of not requiring a wet signature. So, and Sunc understands that at this point, and they made the change to not have customers that way. So I think probably based on the numbers we heard, it's about 300 or so customers that were acquired that way. So that leaves the other 70%, the 700 roughly, that were acquired when they responded to what Sunc sent to them, the marketing materials. And that is an exemption under the Maryland Telephone Solicitation Act, 14-2202A5, is where they are responding from, and they purchase goods or services pursuant to an advertisement. So for those customers, I do not believe that they were acquired improperly, and they should not be returned to service or a re-rate or anything like that. To OPC's comments of relief, I would not categorize this as slamming at all. If there's a customer that says that, yes, they want to be enrolled, but it turns out Sunc didn't send them a contract to sign because they misunderstood, that's still the customer giving their consent to be enrolled. So I don't, to me, slamming is more of you're just completely switching them without their consent whatsoever. And these people consented. Sunc just didn't follow up to get a wet signature on the document. So to me, that's not slamming. So I don't think to have the customers automatically go back to SOS would be the right thing either. I am in favor of, at the end of what OPC said, of developing some type of joint letter with staff, with OPC, and approved by the commission that would go to the customers and explain all the violations that have occurred, whatever the commission finds, and then gives the customer a choice. And we can talk about opt-in or opt-out or how it's phrased. We're not worried about that, but just a complete automatic drop of all these customers. And I hope they were just referring to them via telephone, not door to door. But even so, all the telephone customers, I don't think is appropriate. You should give the customers an option to decide what they want to do. As far as the mitigation efforts by Sunc and the commission's ability to levy a fine, and the statute 7-507 goes through what the commission considers, and one of the things is the good faith of the supplier in attempting to achieve compliance. And so I think that was demonstrated in a couple different ways. Yes, they did not reach out to counsel immediately after they got something in January, and it did take them until March to kind of realize it up the chain that something was wrong. But then they took action and stopped that type of referral. With the call with Mr. Fields, once that was brought to their attention, they immediately terminated that supplier that did that type of action. When they found out from Ohio that the TPV was incorrect, then they decided to change it in Maryland and other places. So I do think they've shown a pattern of fixing their mistakes and their violations. And I think that should carry weight in what the commission decides in this case. They voluntarily stopped soliciting customers in Maryland pursuant to and they notified the commission of such when we filed our response to the complaint, and that has continued. And they're offering the ability for the commission to suspend, revoke, however you want to phrase it, their right to acquire these new telephone customers, which I think is substantial. So, with that, we are at the mercy of the commission in its ruling, and I hope that Sunc is treated fairly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGee. The commission will stand in recess until 5 p.m. this afternoon.
For everyone on the WebEx, the commission will be returning closer to 5:15.
Get their refunds. I wasn't as much concerned about a fine that was going to
We'll be back on the record within 1 minute. Okay, we are back on the record in case number 9647, the matter of Sunc Energy LLC. Been a long day of testimony. Hearing the argument, the burden of proof was on OPC, and we've heard from our commission staff as well as the company, Sunc Energy LLC. In an evidentiary hearing, the job of the commission and the 5 commissioners is to weigh the evidence that has been introduced into the record and to weigh the testimony of the live witnesses. I found the testimony of Mr. Fields to be rather compelling. He's obviously a sophisticated citizen when it comes to third-party energy supplier. I'm going to pause. We're going to go off the record 1 second. There may be some difficulties. I understand that Commissioner O'Donnell could hear but not see me. In weighing the additional testimony, I didn't find the testimony of OPC witness Muncie to be particularly compelling. Mr. Mosier, on behalf of staff, demonstrated his credentials, and I found his testimony compelling. And then the witness for Sunc, Mr. Agabi, I did not find his testimony to be relatively compelling or all that credible, in my opinion. We've heard from a number of admissions on behalf of the company, whether through inadvertence or intentionally, misunderstanding the state law and the regulations that govern retail energy supply in this state. We had entered into evidence over 30 complaints that were filed with our Consumer Affairs Division. A witness for Sunc testified that not a single complaint was ever filed with the company. And I do find that hard to believe, since every complaint that we accept here at the commission must first be filed with the company before we would entertain that complaint. Much of the testimony from the Sunc witness stated that the customers were wrong, or the customers were lying, or that members of his own staff failed to do their jobs in compliance when they initially received a determination from the Consumer Affairs Division back in January of 2020. And all this time, from the beginning of last year, when the applications were applied for, till present, we've seen an increase in number of complaints that were filed with us. It's concerning for me as a commissioner and a commission that's responsible for ensuring that those licensed by the State Public Service Commission have the fitness to carry out the duties and functions so we could carry out our duties to protect the public. without even addressing any of the contested claims of violation by OPC. The witness for Sunc has already admitted to a whole host of violations. The commission in its judgment will make findings, and the commissioners will vote on the appropriate relief based on what we've received into evidence and what we've heard today. With respect to the telephone solicitations, all telephone solicitations, whether inbound or outbound, my findings will apply to. My findings will not apply to any contracts that were executed via door-to-door solicitation. Finding number 1, Sunc intentionally provided false information and engaged in deceptive practices under PUA Section 7-507K3, as well as COMAR 20.53.7.7A2. That Sunc enrolled customers by deception and without meeting the minimum contracting requirements of COMAR 20.53.7.8 and COMAR 20.59.7.8, as well as the Maryland Telephone Solicitation Act, Section 14-2203, and Public Utilities Article, Section 7-507K3. Number 3, that the company failed to reduce the contract to writing signed by the customer in accordance with the Maryland Telephone Solicitation Act, Section 14-2203B1, and COMAR COMAR Title 20.53.7.7D, and COMAR 20.59.7.7D. Number 4, Sunc failed to include the oral representations made in connection with the transaction in a written contract pursuant to Maryland Telephone Solicitation Act, Section 14-2203B6, and COMAR Title 20.53.7.7D, and COMAR Title 20.59.7.7D. Number 5, that Sunc failed to provide a contract of any sort prior to a customer's enrollment pursuant to COMAR Title 20.53.7.8A and COMAR 20.59.7.8A. Number 6, that Sunc failed to provide a contract summary of any sort prior to enrollment pursuant to COMAR Title 20.53.7.8B and COMAR 20.59.7.8B. And finally, number 7, that Sunc failed to disclose all material contract terms and conditions to the customer over the telephone pursuant to COMAR Title 20.53.7.8C4. I should go back one. With respect to violation number 6, I should also include COMAR Title 20, Subtitle 59, Chapter 7, Regulation 8C4. Also ran afoul of that violation. At this time, I'm prepared to move to the injunctive relief and penalties associated with violations of those sections of state law and commission regulation. And it consists of 5 parts. Number 1, effective immediately, there is a moratorium on Sunc for all marketing and all solicitations of new customers until further direction of the commission. This will allow the commission to be confident that the licensee is in full compliance with state law and commission regulations. That also requires that the commission will need to see that all marketing violations are cured. Among those violations is the fact that the green product is not being accurately recognized as such. Number two, Sunc is directed to return all customers that have been solicited via telephone, whether inbound or outbound solicitation, to standard offer service within 10 days of today, and to provide a letter of explanation to those customers, including their right to a refund. Number three, re-rate and refund all customers solicited via telephone the difference between Sunc's supply charges and the applicable SOS rate from the local utility for all periods these customers were served, whether the customers are an existing customer or a former customer. Sunc will also need to provide an accounting to the commission of the number of accounts and refunds sent to each of these customers. Number four, in consultation with staff and the Office of People's Counsel, within the next 30 days, Sunc is required to send a letter to all remaining customers, which explains three parts. Part A, that violations of state law and commission regulations were found by this commission. Part B, that all Sunc customers can return to standard offer service without penalty. And part three, provide an accurate description of Sunc's renewable product. Number five is just a finding that the commission will address the civil monetary penalty after the refund process has begun to these customers that had invalid contracts. Additionally, Sunc's compliance with this refund process that was just ordered will factor into the consideration of any penalty amount that may be determined and calculated at a later date. I recognize that was a lengthy five-part motion. We'll begin the vote with Commissioner Herman.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Richard. I vote aye. The package of motions are approved with no additional matters being brought before this commission this evening. This evidentiary hearing is now adjourned.